United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Summer, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Benberry?
Here.
Commissioner Bradford? Commissioner Morrison?
Here.
Commissioner Pollard?
Here.
Commissioner Schramke?
Here.
Commissioner Wade?
Here.
Chair Casillas?
Here. Ms. Schramke, you have the minutes motion.
I do. I move that the reading of the minutes for August 16th, 2021 be waived and the minutes of said meeting as prepared by staff be approved as written.
Second.
Second by Pollard. Are there any changes or corrections? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Schramke?
Aye.
Commissioner Wade?
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry?
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford? Commissioner Morrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard?
Aye.
Chair Casillas?
Aye. Our first section of business tonight is actually urban renewal and community development petitions that are coming before us. The Paducah Planning and Zoning Commission now serves as the overseeing body for urban renewal and community development, and I believe Katie Axe is here to give us a presentation.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me this evening. Again, my name is Katie Axt. I'm a principal planner and Main Street director in the planning department, and I'm here presenting tonight for this fiscal year's roof stabilization program. We come every year about this time and open the grant cycle up for property owners that own historic buildings in our historic commercial district for roof stabilization funds. The purpose of this program is to provide funds to protect and preserve historic buildings by supplying funding to do watertight, leak-proof roofing systems. Because when we protect the roof, we protect the building from water damage, from deterioration, and ultimately from risk of demolition. And so we have 3 projects that are coming before you tonight. 406 Broadway, which is Creatures of Habit, 428, 430, which is the Goodman Building, kind of located on the corner of 5th and Broadway, and then also 628 Broadway, which is Make and residential units above. City Commission approved $45,000 for this fiscal year, and we are recommending approval of all of those funds to support these 3 projects. They were reviewed and judged based on the list of criteria that is established in city ordinance, and that is 4 specific criteria: urgency of roof stabilization, contribution to the National Register of Historic Places, the historic relationship of that building to adjacent structures, and then the capital commitment of the owner to rehabilitate the remaining funds. Our ordinance would allow for funding of up to 50% on a roof project, but given the restrictions of our funding, we cannot fully fund these projects this year. And so you see in the cover letter kind of a chart, a summary of how we graded each project based on the criteria, adjusted the score based on their qualifications and how they met the criteria, and then a cut across all 3 projects to meet our available funding of $45,000. So if you have any questions about individual projects, I'm happy to go through those details, but I'm pleased to bring that to you and would recommend approval of all 3 projects.
I do have a question, Katie.
Yes.
Are you involved when the City Commission decides what the project will fund, like for next year? Will you be involved in that conversation or decision or something? So, because based on history, obviously, we're far underfunded from what we needed to be.
We are. So the way that the budgeting process works is that it starts at the staff level. We make a budget request that is then presented to the city administration and then ultimately goes to City Commission for approval. So this amount was less than they have done in previous years. Also, this budget rolls every year, and due to COVID, our reserves were clawed back to satisfy fiscal constraints in other areas. So that is the reason for why we have less funds and cannot offer the amount of money that we would like to offer. But it is a challenge because this is our most utilized grant program. It is the highest award per project and serves the greatest need because not only in terms of the capital expense for roofs, a typical roof is, $30,000 to $40,000. Some of the larger projects are more than that, like the Goodman Building. It's a $90,000 roof project. That's very difficult when you're trying to not only protect the building, but then also be able to fund the redevelopment of it. So I'm optimistic that we'll be fully funded next year, but in this case, we are seeing the constraints of the pandemic on city resources. I would also like to just mention that we've had to set aside $30,000 for an emergency roof grant that is outside of this standard process. If you recall, if you read the ordinance, we have a clause for emergencies where a building, the roof has collapsed, the building is at risk. And we have one of those cases on the 600 block of Broadway that we are working with the property owner to dedicate emergency roof funds. So those funds were not made available in this traditional grant cycle, but are allocated to save that building. Usually once a year, on a given year, we usually have one building that either does collapse or is at risk of collapsing. So it continues to be an important need when we think about the revitalization of downtown.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Mr. Wade, you have our first item of business.
I move that the URCDA approve the utilization of roof stabilization assistance program funds in the amount of $12,309 for roof stabilization at 406 Broadway, subject to the work being completed by one of the qualified contractors that bid on the work.
Second.
Second by Pollard. Discussion, questions? I think Katie has given us quite a bit of good background. So you have an idea of what's ahead of us.
I had a
If
question.
there question, yes?
It's not about this project particularly, but Katie, will the next fiscal year, will there be more funds requested? I guess is the follow-up to Ms. Ramsey.
Staff does request more funding because we track not only how many projects come before us, but also, the average or the median amount that it costs to do a roof. So yes, at the staff level, we do make that request. It goes through the budget process and is part of the City Commission's approval of the fiscal year budget.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you. Any more questions?
Just one more, that is on the process. So next year, based on the fact that they were underfunded here, I'm sure that you'll be requesting more funds. And if those funds are not used, does it roll over to the following year, or do they reassess the whole thing again, or how does that go?
These funds roll over year to year. So if we...
Does it go backwards to benefit these people?
Oh, I wish. Unfortunately not. One of the things that an applicant could choose to do is to delay, withdraw their application. That money could go back into the pot for next year, and then they could try to apply again under a more favorable budget environment. But that's a trade-off because for all three of these projects, they are in desperate need of fixing their roof.
If they withdraw, they can't fix their roof.
Pardon me?
They can't fix their
No.
roof if they withdraw their application.
And that could,
and expect to get money from.
that could make a crisis.
That is correct. What I'm
Yes,
saying
just-
is that they would choose to delay maintenance, delay the rehab project, and
Right.
try to apply again. Nobody has ever done that before, but the ordinance could allow for flexibility on that.
Well, and in reading this, several of these have already delayed working on the roof, not because of this project, but they've just delayed 2 or 3 years because they didn't have the money to do it.
Yes, or multiple. I know Creatures of Habit, which is our second oldest business downtown. It's been 25, 26 years. And they had to delay because of COVID. And so they're in desperate need, but also they are looking forward to redeveloping their second and third stories for residential, which is exactly what these programs are intended to do and meets the vision of downtown as a vibrant neighborhood. So it's a difficult situation for them, for this program, and the trade-offs that have to be made.
One more. Do you know approximately how much, just right offhand, that the budget was cut?
Typically,
From requested?
oh goodness, I don't remember how much was clawed back in 2020. I would have to get back to you with that number.
I'm just curious.
I think we had 70,000 a couple of years ago,
Yes,
which was the norm.
Kathy,
You remember?
do you think anybody in the
It was-
audience
it was-
is here to comment on
This is really low. I don't remember it being this low
Yes.
I don't know.
in a while.
yeah. And we were able to fund these roof projects at the full 50%
Yeah.
for several years. And then because of the clawback, that took away our reserve. So we had more money available than projects that were coming before us, a good position to be in. But then also the approved amount was less than typically awarded on a given fiscal year. So double whammy.
Ms. Schramke asked a good question, and that is there anyone in the audience who wanted to comment on this particular item of business? No. All right. Thank you. Are there any more questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
excuse me, Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
I
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. Mr. Morrison, you have the next item of business.
Yes, ma'am. I move that the URCDA approve the utilization of roof stabilization assistance program funds in the amount of $25,906 for roof stabilization at 428 to 430 Broadway, subject to the work being completed by one of the qualified contractors that bid on the work.
second.
Second by Pollard. Some of you may be wondering why there is so much more money being given to this particular project as opposed to some of the others. And I think Katie can give us the answer.
Of course. So this project, number one, is the 428, 430 Broadway is our larger building. It is 6,000 square feet on the ground floor, so it's a much larger surface area. It is also in most dire need. We actually allocated a small amount of emergency roof funds back in 2020, the fall of 2020, because the roof had collapsed and water was protruding. This building is also unique because it had to be stabilized and was at risk of demo because the building adjacent to it collapsed and was demolished. And so the new property owners purchased this in 2020. Paul Garreau and Jorge Martinez are looking to expand Hotel 1857 and redevelop this historic site for boutique hotel, event space, restaurant, retail, as well as to expand outdoor dining and performance area on the vacant lot. So this was one of those buildings that was in dire need. We did have to devote some emergency roof funds to help with water intrusion last year, and now they're at a place where they can devote full resources to a complete roof rehab project.
Comments, questions? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Chair Casillas.
Aye. Mr. Benberry, you have our last URCDA item of business,
Yes, ma'am.
please.
I move that the URCDA approve the utilization of roof stabilization assistant program funds in the amount of $6,785 for roof stabilizations at 628 Broadway, subject to the work being completed by one of the qualified contractors that bid on the work.
Second.
Second by Pollard. Thank you very much, Valerie. Questions, comments? I assume you've read over most of the information that was sent to us, so.
I'll just mention that this one is unique because the roof has to be rehabilitated in order to do a second phase of rehabilitation on brickwork. And bricks are currently falling off said building, pigeons are nesting, and it's creating damage to adjacent property. So part one is the roof rehab. The second part is tuck pointing and masonry work.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Chair Casillas.
Aye. That concludes our URCDA portion of the meeting tonight. Now we're moving into
Thank you.
Paducah Planning and Zoning Commission, and thank you, Katie Axe. We appreciate you being here. At our last meeting, we approved some bylaw changes. And one of the things that we changed was the way that we handle items of business that request to be put on the table. In other words, they request to be held until a little bit later so that they can complete some work that needs to be done or change some things on the plat or whatever needs to be done to fulfill some requirements. There is one item of business that has been on the table since October of last year. And so tonight, we have a proposal to remove that from the table and deal with that item of business. So, Ms. Pollard, please.
I move that this commission remove from the table case PLT 2020-101 pertaining to 4500 Buckner Lane.
Second.
Second by Shramky. Do you want to give us a little input?
I sure can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was tabled October 5th of last year, so we're coming up on a year timeframe for this particular plat. When the bylaws was changed at the last meeting, I did reach out to Dan Key to see what could be done for this particular item since it's been on you all's agenda for such a long time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 90-day time frame. It can be whatever the commission would like, and that's totally up to you all to set that time frame for them to act on this plat. What would happen is whenever the time frame is set, I would send a letter to the petitioner and advising them of the deadline and what things we need on the particular plat. To remind the commission, what we was looking for was drainage detention was not provided. Lot 1, which is proposed to be a single-family home, did not have 75 feet on Buckner Lane, which is required in the R1 zone. A pavement cross-section of both streets was needed. The lots would have to meet the provisions of 126-102, which is the R1 low-density residential zone, which means that each lot would have to be 7,000 square feet, and the structure itself would have to have 75 linear feet of road frontage. And as submitted, lots 6 and 7, the backyard of lots 6 and 7 would face the front yards of lots 4 and 5, meaning they need to reconfigure those so that whenever kids are playing in the backyard, they're not necessarily in somebody's front yard at the same time. And the roadway abruptly ends on the southeast corner of the plat that does dead end into the Murray State campus. There's no plans right now to extend Murray's private road to meet this one, so we did ask for them to remove that and just leave the loop that is shown on the plat now. And the Parks Department was requesting an easement between Linnell Park and the Murray State campus because Linnell Park was dedicated as a trailhead. So in order for Parks to facilitate that need, we needed an easement along this new road for walkers, bikers to get from one place to the other without having to traverse around the subdivision. So those are the items that we are needing, and the petitioner would be made known what we would need to resubmit if they would like.
Josh, have you talked to the petitioner?
I talked to their professional representative, I believe, late spring, early summer, and they was still on the fence and didn't know which direction they wanted to move. And last I knew, and I talked to their representative, maybe June, and they still have not made up their mind.
So we are now opening this up for discussion to decide how long we would like to give them. We set the amount of time because this was already on the table. This doesn't necessarily fit into the 90-day rule. So
Would we be setting past practice? I know this is we changed, if we do 30 days or 90. Is that something that you think would be setting a practice if we say 30 and then 6 months from now another one comes when we say 90? How do we need to approach that? Did you speak to Dan about that perhaps?
the thing you have to remember is they've been on the table
A year.
since October of last year. This is not like we're, pushing them off the table. It's
Well,
basically
I'm
been
just
there a long
asking
time.
because if we try to treat each person,
But the new standard is 90 days.
Right.
but we can lessen that, correct?
Well, on this we can, because
Right.
this was already on the table, but the bylaws now say 90 days. But see,
Oh, I
because they were
gotcha.
already there, it's like they were,
I'm clear.
see, now
I
you
do.
get it.
I'm clear.
It's
I
kind of
misunderstood. I
complicated.
apologize.
It's a little bit.
Well, and from the way I'm hearing this, it sounds to me like you're the one that's approaching them and asking them what they're doing or what the decision is. Is that,
Well, I've always kept in contact with them, yes,
yeah, I mean,
in
they've
order
not,
to try to keep it moving along, because it has been on the agenda such a long
well,
time.
and my point being, it sounds like you're doing your thing. You are contacting them and trying to get updates, but
Right,
updates aren't coming.
yes, correct.
I'd like to suggest we just give them 30 days, and this has been it'll be a year with 30 days, so
Over.
It will be.
Over.
that's more than ample time
And if
for
we
most
take it off the
projects.
table, it can always,
They can always reapply.
Come back.
Always
Yeah.
It's not
reapply.
like they
So-
can't reapply.
this isn't like we're killing
Take it off the
anything. I mean, it's,
And if they do bring a plat back before this body, it would have to be re-advertised, a new public hearing, new notices would go to the neighbor, it would be start from scratch.
But hopefully they would have everything taken care of by that
They,
time.
they have a
so-
laundry list to take care of. That
And
is-
there are no representatives here tonight?
No, the professional representative was made
Can we
aware,
just-
we were going to talk about this tonight, but he is not with us tonight.
So
30
if
days.
do we just need to remove it, not extend the 30 days and just remove it tonight?
No, remove.
We've already removed it.
Continue for 30 days, but then remove it after 30 days,
Okay.
instead of 90.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
What's your
you have
pleasure?
a motion?
It's good. 30.
Does that sound reasonable?
Or-
Madam Chair, but we need to vote on the first motion to remove it from the table.
Right. that's
Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
That's correct.
That's what I was trying to.
Call the roll.
Commissioner
Now, what
Pollard,
are we
Aye.
doing?
To remove it from the table.
remove it from the table.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry.
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chair Casillas.
Aye. Now we have a second motion, and the motion actually can be changed before you read it,
Okay.
because we've kind of decided what we'd like to do.
I move that case PLT 2020-101 pertaining to 4500 Buckner Lane be removed from the agenda after 30 days.
Second.
Second by Morrison.
Did we just remove it?
That was good.
We removed it from the table, now it's still on the agenda
Oh, I got you.
for 30 more days. Basically, we've retabled it till then.
And it'll automatically roll off
Exactly.
after 30 days.
We just had to give them specific amount of time,
Yep.
so.
I'm good.
Any more questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chair Casillas.
Aye. Ms. Shramky, you have our first item of new petitions.
I move that this commission receive and file the application of David Boswell and Van Sims to find the proposed use to be located at 425 South 6th Street to be in the same general character as the principal uses in the A1 Civic Center Zone. I further move that the application be approved based on the following findings of fact. The participants will be learning life skills in 12-step meetings and group services similar to a learning institution. Further, other skills will be taught on site to prepare the participants for life outside the community. The participants will not be permanent residents similar to a hotel or a motel. Medical personnel will be conducting services on-site similar to medical offices.
Second.
Second by Pollard. I believe there are some people here to speak tonight, yes? Excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Erin Cole, and I am the director of Edgewater Recovery Center, which is located right over here at 417 South 4th Street.
Excuse me, could you speak up a little? Maybe it's the microphone. There, thank
Is
you.
this better?
It's better.
Okay.
Much.
So I'm Erin Cole, and I am the current director of Edgewater Recovery Center over at 417 South 4th Street. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner by background, and have 14 years of recovery under my belt as well. I'm going to get choked up. I have had the opportunity to work with amazing men who have come out of jails and had very little support, and have seen through a 90-day program how well they've done, not only in their recovery, but in their families and their ability to get back to work in this community. As the director over there and having a very structured program, where I see the problem in general for people who are trying to recover is that there is no soft landing space once you graduate from treatment center. And we here in Paducah have some sober living type housing. But what I propose that we do with the 6th Street property is to have more of a peer community where it's not just a sober living facility where they come and they sleep and they eat. What I would like to do is to take the graduates of my program and have them step into society through what I propose at 6th Street, which is to have sort of a transitional living space where they can continue to get services that we are not able to provide at Edgewater. These services in particular are anger management, which is oftentimes court-ordered. Then there's parenting classes, there's the UI assessment, that type of thing. Beyond that, we will be staffed with peer support specialists who are capable of providing peer mentorship, along with having a house manager who will be able to be there on site 24 hours a day. Beyond that, my assistant director is also a nurse practitioner. She's in family health. And so the two of us are going to continue with aftercare for these men because we've been able to start psychiatric medications. We've been able to continue their basic medical care. And so not only can they transition through with a safe place to live in a community, but they can also transition with healthcare. And what I've also seen is these men, they get out of treatment and they're handed off to a new person, a new provider, and they don't go and they don't stay compliant. And before you know it, they've relapsed. So my hope with this is that we can plug a hole for these guys and have them continue to become parents and fathers and husbands and productive members of society and give back to the community, because they deserve a chance to.
Thank you.
We're open to questions.
Go ahead.
How long is your program at Edgewater?
We started as a 90-day treatment facility. We are now up to 120 days.
Okay.
And then we have a 2-month continuance up in Moorhead, which is our parent corporation. And so for most of these guys coming out of jail, there's about a 90-day to 180-day program that the judge generally wants. My hope is if we can keep them 120 there, that some of the judges will look to say, okay, they're continuing over here. And then it's more of a smooth transition for them because we're on the western side of the state and they're having to go for 2 months to eastern Kentucky and then come back and get resituated.
And then I also wanted to ask, you said there'd be someone on site
Correct.
24/7,
Correct.
including weekends? I thought I read someplace that.
Yes, because the men will be transitionally living there. There will also be a house manager, so to speak, who will be in charge of making sure they hit curfew, making sure that they're going to their jobs, making sure that they are getting random drug tests, that kind of thing.
But this is not one of the applicants, it's one of the,
It will be a man who has had a year of sobriety.
okay.
So he will get a discounted rate to be able to come in and be a house manager, but he will also be part of the peer community.
I have a question.
That's what
Yes,
I
ma'am.
When I read this, it said participants will not be permanent residents similar to a hotel or a motel. But then when I read staff's comments, proposed to house up to 14 males, and the average length of stay is 3 to 6 months. It sounds like a hotel or motel to me. I'm saying, what's the difference here?
The hotel motel wording was not mine.
Josh,
Let me-
okay, I'm asking the wrong person. Josh?
I would be glad to elaborate on that, meaning that there's no permanent residence for them. In the case of like when it's transitional, check in and check out, and it's still going on here, just a longer length of time. But it's not like a single-family home where, yes, they live there, but it's not going to be their permanent residence here on out.
But on the other side, there would always be residents there.
Okay.
Even if I'm one of the 14, another person would be expected to come in to replace me. I would think it would always be up to 14 people.
Up to 14 is the plan, yes, sir.
So continuously, there would be
Yes,
at least, or at the most, 14 residents.
correct.
Would the living facilities be dormitory style, or would they be individual rooms? I'm just asking.
The way that the building is laid out, there is available space to have 7 separate rooms, which could each have 2 twin beds. They will have their own kitchen. They'll be responsible for making their own food. They actually will be renting, so to speak. They're learning to get back in the community, so they have to pay a weekly rate to stay there so that they can learn how to manage their money, see what it takes to get the job back and what it takes maybe to pay their child support, restitution, whatever it might be. But they will be responsible for paying a weekly stipend in order to stay there.
And do you have a program whereby you help them find housing after when they transition out?
Yes, ma'am. So we have a case manager over at Edgewater, and she will also be part of the team who will help them. One of the first things that they'll do once they graduate from our program, if they choose to go over to this location, is that we will get them signed up for food stamps. We will get them signed up for whatever community services that might benefit them as they transition out into the real world, so to speak. So yes, we will have people who will help them also find housing. We have Turning Point, which is down the street, and they have some grants available, and we're very plugged in with them already in order to get some of these guys into permanent housing. But the problem is there's a backlog. We don't have enough housing for these, affordable housing for these guys. And so, working with Turning Point, working with our own case manager, my hope would be that they would be able to stay there long enough to get on their feet and then be able to actually find permanent housing.
And what about job location? Is that part of the program as well?
More or less by networking. We do not have a person who will help per se get them jobs. We do have a network just because we've graduated guys already. We're plugged in with a lot of these places around here who are hiring. And so we will definitely help them fill out applications, make resumes, that kind of thing. We just won't actually be placing them in the job. Part of becoming accountable and responsible in recovery is learning to do these things yourself.
How about education opportunities to find jobs?
So-
Like with West Kentucky
That is
community?
something that I have started over there. I have had a lot of guys who obviously have not gone on to college, but have very much an interest to do so. I'm a firm believer in higher education, and I would like to be able to plug them in to West Kentucky for sure, if they so choose. And in fact, we have a couple guys right now who we've already helped with the FAFSA, and they're looking into different classes and what they might want to do.
Good.
In terms of your, and this might be more detail than we need tonight, but in terms of things like curfew, violations, is it a point structure, or is it 3 strikes, you're out of here, or what is it exactly?
Well,
Can you explain it in just a sentence or two?
My guess is and of course, we haven't actually put this in stone, I think it's subject to change a little bit, just when you get into it, it can feel a little bit differently than theoretical. But my guess would be that, if you're late first time, you get a warning, second time you're out. If you have a failed urine drug screen,
Right.
you're gone. It's
Okay.
it's a recovery community, and we cannot tolerate those kinds of things. Again, like what we teach at Edgewater is how to become accountable and responsible citizens for ourselves as well. And if you can't follow simple rules, just like at our treatment facility, you get kicked out. Like it's not going to work that way. So,
Okay.
and having less supervisory staff than what we have over here, we can't take the chances to give people lots of.
Are the participants, for the most part, would you say, court-appointed?
Most of them, I would say probably a good 3/4 of the men who come to our facility are court-ordered. We do have some who come on their own. But I should say, a lot of these guys, for instance, I have a man in my facility right now. He was in jail for 20 months, and he has now been with us for 3 more months. So he's going to graduate from our facility and have 23 months of clean time. So he is, though he's been in an incubated area, he also has a lot of time to have thought through things and that kind of thing. So, I mean, yes, they're court-ordered to treatment. They are not court-ordered to transitional living or to the peer support community.
Is most of them's time reduced because they accept the?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. A lot of these guys are repeat offenders with small charges, possession of this or, multiple DUIs, that kind of thing. We do have some who are a little bit more, they've had more of a rap sheet, I guess I should say, but, they're doing what they're supposed to do and have proven to us in 3 months or 4 months that they continue to be responsible.
The main thing that we're considering tonight is whether this facility, based upon what Ms. Cole has told us, would be similar to uses that are already in the area. That's what our consideration is. So, thank you.
I didn't see staff recommendation.
Staff is recommending approval based on the findings of fact contained in the motion. Moreover, we would like to point out, as far as staff's point of view, it is next door to the Kentucky Career Center, which is right across the street, plus the courthouse is a block away and the library 2 blocks away. So whenever they was looking for this particular location, they was keeping those community elements in mind as well.
And transportation is a block away as well,
Yes.
Pat's. is
Sure.
available.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal.
And probation and parole. It's right across the street.
Yes, that's a big deal too.
Jail is in the back, so it's a constant reminder.
Any more questions or comments?
Well, I just read one more thing, and this is to you. I like the program. I think it looks wonderful. I hope it succeeds. I see in here that they have 2 weeks after coming in to find employment, and yet you're not affiliated or not helping them find employment, from what I understood. Was that correct? You don't have that set up in your program?
We don't have programs in place for employment. However, we are in communications via WinTech. A lot of our guys have gone there. We have some guys from Genoa, who've gone to Genoa. We have many guys in recovery who also have construction firms and that kind of thing. So they are part of a larger recovery community. And just by going out into the community, the 12-step groups, and most of the guys are leaving our facility and they're already employed.
It's going to be hard for them, the 2-week window, to find employment with what they're going through.
I really like that, the job fair that was held recently in Paducah. One of the things that they look for are jobs that are second chance for people who have been in jail, for them to have another opportunity to get a job and keep a job. So, any other
But they
questions?
can use this as an address. So from that standpoint, it gives them that option as well. They've got transportation.
These guys are not going to
Right.
have an ID. Some of them are going to
Right.
have a social security card. Yes, so they can use it temporarily. They do the same with Edgewater as it is.
Okay.
But yes, sir, they can do that, which is very beneficial at the time.
Oh, yeah.
because they have that.
Seems simple to the rest of us, but
Correct.
Sure.
yeah.
Just one more question. Christian education, far as like that type of thing, is that a part of the program or no?
What?
Like on Sundays, going to, or being a part of some Christian organization?
They are perfectly welcome to go out and find whatever higher power that they so choose. Yes, it is not something that we will be taking them to necessarily. Again, this is their shot at trying to be independent in their living. So if they choose to go to work on a Sunday, or if they choose to go to church on a Sunday, it will be up to them. But by all means, the 12-step program is a spiritually based program. So it is something that we encourage that everyone find a higher power. Most of those people there, and for myself, it's God. So yeah, church is absolutely part of something that they can choose to do, and being downtown, they obviously have a lot of options to choose from.
So different than like a halfway house, all of these persons would be in recovery from some type of substance and not general crimes, I would say.
Yes, it's 100% substance abuse treatment recovery based.
It's a question a lot of people would ask, I think. Yes. Are there any more questions, comments? Thank you very much. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Chair Crecilius.
Aye. Our last item of business tonight, Mr. Wade, do you have that motion?
Yes, I move that this commission adopt a resolution approving the B3 General Business Zone classification for property located at 2712 and 2728 Jackson Street. I further move the following conditions be placed on said approval as follows. 1, the site shall be screened along the alley with an 8-foot tall privacy fence. 2, a landscape buffer of at least 3 feet shall be installed inside the privacy fence. 3, there shall be no speakers or drive-through windows facing the rear of the site. And 4, all exterior lighting shall be pointed downward or shielded to keep light contained to the site.
Second.
Second by Pollard.
Distinguished members of the Paducah Planning and Zoning Commission, it's an honor to be before you, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm Gerald Watkins, a realtor with Purchase Realty Group, and I represent both the buyer and the seller in this transaction on Jackson Street. The reason for the rezoning request is to have uniformity of zoning, as it is part of the parcel zone B1 and part of it is owned B3. And as you know better than anyone, there are different rules and regulations for the different zones. And also, we believe rezoning will be in compliance with the comprehensive plan. My client will tear down and haul off the ASCO detail shop on the corner, 28th and Jackson, the small green rental house next to it, and the old Chong's restaurant, all on Jackson Street, and all 3 currently vacant, and build a very nice new convenience store. He has a record of success in Western Kentucky and West Tennessee. It'll be a first-class operation, and he has agreed to abide by all the terms that Commissioner Wade just read off. I would add also that he is not going to have a drive-through. That will not be at all. He will close by 11 p.m. each night. And I'd be glad to entertain any questions that you might have. Or
I assume you've seen this and read through it, or
what is it?
Probably not.
it's,
We have a letter
Of
that was
concern.
sent in by, it was sent in by a neighbor.
No, I haven't.
Forwarded his reply. It was
Yes,
all
the
in- it was an
Johnsons.
email this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Do you have that?
The developer has read it and been in communication with Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's, my understanding.
okay.
I talked to him today, but I wasn't made aware of any of the details. He just said he felt like all the concerns were taken care of and that he had been in communication with Mr. and Mrs. Johnson.
Okay.
Would you like to speak? We have someone in the back who would like to speak as well.
Yeah, I'm Kelly Johnson. My husband was ill, so he couldn't be here. We've lived there for about 25 years, the property directly behind it. When we bought that property, Chong's used to be in the house kind of in the middle of that property. We weren't notified, and they moved that building all the way to the back. Our neighborhood's really volatile. We've had to like mow 3 different yards. I've kept the alley clean for years. I finally reached out to the city, who stepped in and helped us by taking pictures, open garbage cans. The alley was used as a road. You know, the semis that was dropping stuff off would come hit it. And yes, Mr. Baker did send me a nice letter and addressed all of my concerns. I'm glad he said the 11 o'clock, 'cause I didn't think to ask about that. And he also said he would make sure the garbage cans were enclosed and with a fence around them. So we're fine with that. And I really like the fence idea.
The screening,
And
yeah.
we really need some good gas stations down through that area. The ones we have now are not appealing. And we did see we traveled, looked some business he does have. They're well maintained. The parking lots are swept clean. So I think as long as the traffic pattern's there, because we have trouble with like Reds, they come out trying to get out in between people. There's been wrecks there with McDonald's. When they turned that for that drive-through, that did not help anything. I don't know how it is now with them changing that to just one way each direction with the turn lane in the middle. I don't go down through there anymore to get to my house. I go down 21st Street coming from work and go down in front of Elmwood Court. That way I can avoid that. It's during certain traffic times. Just Burgers, they have it's great business, but they're all the way out into the road, down the side. So I don't know with that much traffic in and out, what that would impose. I'm not opposed to it at all. I mean, you all would know better than that, the people that deal with that. But I do appreciate Mr. Baker and what he's done. He reached out very kindly on that stuff and put it in writing, so I know he'll stand to what he said he would do. So thank you.
Thank you. I use that road 3 or 4 times a week, and it is a much improved drive with that little adjustment At first you're in the wrong lane, but once you get used to it, you get over pretty quick.
Traffic flows a little better.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Yes, please, come forward.
Hi, my name is Michael Love. I'm actually part owner of the Jackson Street McDonald's, so thank you all for having me tonight. I heard your mention of McDonald's, so yeah, my dad and I have been, after we got the notice, my dad and I, he's the other part owner of the restaurant, so I guess what we're talking about is there's pros and cons to McDonald's. I'm sure that we will share customers with this business, but the pros is I know Pockets. It's a great place, and it's a nice place, and kind of like I think it could increase traffic down Jackson Street, and kind of a rising tide raises all ships type of thing. So the one thing I would say maybe to look at is make sure that it has healthy ingress and egress. Make sure that like there's a lot of different entries and exits to where we could cars could exit on Jackson Street and also maybe down that side street. I'm not exactly sure what.
28.
Yeah. And that somehow it's able to maintain a healthy traffic flow. But yeah, that's all. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Josh, can I ask you about the landscape buffer? Can you, for the benefit of everyone, tell us what?
That is just a little bit of extra protection that staff has asked for. Going back to the concerns of garbage that was blowing down the alley and things like that, we felt that we did need a little bit of extra protection right there since it's such a dense neighborhood behind that. And that an 8-foot privacy fence is great, but we wanted to make sure that we could actually push that into the site as far as we could. And 3 foot is the max because of the turning radius of the trucks that would come in. It is a smaller site than what they normally develop, and it's about 9/10 of an acre, I believe, but altogether. But what that would do would be to keep traffic and trash, things like that, contained further within the site. That's the intent behind it.
My question is, would there be access from that alley into this site? No
No.
access whatsoever?
No.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
But no, we don't have plans yet. This is just all in theory right
Yes, it would be proposed to be built in 23
now. He said
or
23
24
I think.
if it's approved, and what would happen is we would get a site plan for
Sure,
review.
Before that.
It would be reviewed by planning and engineering as far as the site itself, but District 1 Highways would also be reviewing for the Jackson Street ingress.
Egress, yeah.
Very good.
Good.
Okay.
He's already agreed to the alley stuff.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone else like to speak tonight? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
Aye.
Commissioner Shramky,
Aye.
Chair Casilius.
Aye. That concludes our meeting. We stand adjourned, and we are adjourned at 6:23. Our next meeting is October the 4th. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate
Yes.
it.
Very good.